Welcome to the shop, everyone. Today I thought I'd take a little bit of a moment and introduce you to the newest member of my machine family, and that's this old gal right here. A little bit of its history. It actually has quite an interesting history, but how it came to me was I have a friend of mine that I've built some rifles for, and you know, I've trained a few horses for him, and we've gotten to be friends. Well, anyway, he had an old machinist that worked for him for 30 years, and this is what he used on their ranch. And he retired and passed away, and this stayed at my buddy's place. And for whatever reason, he said, "Hey, I was down there the other day shoeing," and he said, "Hey, I got something you really might be interested in." And it's up at the shop if you have a minute. And so we went in, and from across the shop, it was just heaped up with all kinds of stuff, and all I could see was that flat lid down there on the headstock. And I said, "Oh wow, it's an old Logan." And then I got a little bit closer and realized this was not a Logan. This is actually a Sheldon lathe. They were a precision lathe built back in the day. I don't know. I know a little bit about the Sheldon lathes. They're actually if you got a good one, they were really nice. Every machinist that I talked to from this era, which would be the World War II era, said that these were as good, or maybe in some cases a little bit better than the South Bends. So anyway, he was looking to clear up some room in his shop. He said it probably, you know, it's in and he was right. He said it's in pretty rough shape. But maybe you can use it. And he said you can have it if you want it. You just got to figure out, you know, we just got to come down when you have a day to load it. And it's really not that big. If you look in the old Sheldon manuals, this would be an 11 by 56 or 52. I believe it's a 56. It's 11 by 56, and the way they measured those back in the day is the headstock is actually mounted to the bed, so they actually measured the whole bed length. So the reality is, this is actually like an 11 by 36, which is real good. A couple neat things about this, you can get pretty close on the date, and we'll go over this up close and personal, but you can get pretty close to the date of manufacture by the gearbox, or by the tumbler box for threading. If you have two sets of tumblers, then it was made after 1945 and after. If you had the quick change gears from 1940 to the end of 1944, 1945, if you had the one tumbler and the shift lever on the top, and like I said, you'll see all this up close and personal in a little bit, then that's when that was made. It was 1940 to 1944, 1945. What's really interesting about this lathe is this. It has. I don't know if you can see it. We'll go over it when we look at it up close. But this was specifically made for use in what they called truck bed machine shops during World War II. And I had a couple friends of mine that, you know, they're older and they're of that generation, and based on some of the tools that this came with, this was actually over there working on tanks. And the giveaway is on that end of the cabinet there's a taper, and so where I'm sitting now, this would be right behind the driver's seat, and then the lathe would be bolted to the truck bed, and that cutout was so it could slide over the tire well, and then you'd have all your cabinetry and then a mill down on the other end. And based on some of the tools that was in the cabinet when I picked it up, this was actually used to service and repair tanks on the battlefield. When they went down, they just drove out there and worked on them. And it is in real rough shape. We'll kind of go through some things on it, but it was free, a gift. Well, you really, when you get into these, it's been my experience that free is what usually costs the most. But really, it's really a neat little lathe with a lot of history, and she helped us win the war. I've tried to do minimal things to it so I could show you guys this, but there was some things I just couldn't help myself, and I'll show you what those were. But I did verify the stampings, and this was issued to I don't know what division, but it was issued to, according to the stamp, it was issued to the United States Army, and it did see action over there. So that's pretty cool. This old gal helped us win the war, and I think we're gonna try to help bring her back, and it'll be a fun little project. I'll talk about some different things on this journey. It's nothing that's going to happen overnight. But as it sits right now, we can go through some things if you're shopping for a lathe in pretty good detail, because, like I said, looks can be deceiving. I've just to make it kind of presentable. This is about a half a load that I've pulled off it, and I pulled 6 of these big dustpan loads of just stuff off of this poor old girl. And you'll see where there's some parts where I haven't gotten to the bed and the ways quite yet, and there was parts that I checked out to see what we were really looking at, and it's remarkably everything on it works. The one thing I did plug it in. I'll show you that here in a little bit because that's quite interesting. The belts in it are shot. I did get it fired up. The bearings in the motor are great, but it probably needs to be rewound. So we're coming into the weekend, so Monday or Tuesday, I'm going to get this. This is one of the first things I'm going to do is get this motor pulled out and get that over to the motor shop in Waco, either Monday or Tuesday, and see if we can't salvage it. It is the original motor. I can't even believe it turned over. So hopefully all it needs to be is rewound. It is 220 single phase. And that's about all I can tell you about that. I did run it. Everything works. And it's very smooth. And so from here we'll go in and we'll take a closer look at it and show you some things to think about when you're lathe shopping. Because I didn't shop for this. It just kind of fell into my lap. But this is a real good example of some different things that you need to be aware of when you're looking for a lathe, and things to consider when you're shopping. And then at the end of it, my intention with this is to bring it into full service again, and so it's going to be a complete tear down and rebuild on it. Since it was free. If I was going to go out and buy a lathe like this, just to give you an example, if I was going to go out and try to buy a lathe like this in what I would consider turnkey condition, so everything's everything's been kind of gone through, maybe it's been painted, all the bushings in it have been checked and redone, and the bed has been worked on if it needs it, and things have been tuned and adjusted and fixed. That's what I call turnkey. I know a heavy 10, South Bend heavy 10, is going to run you right around $3,500 to $4,000 in turnkey condition. I've seen a couple South Bend 9As that are going to run anywhere from 28 to 3. I've even seen some newer Sheldons as well as some older Sheldons that are right in that same ballpark. A Logan's going to run you 2 to 2,200. Atlas is going to be, if it's in real good shape, the Atlas Craftsman are going to be right in that same ballpark. So basically, in my mind, my intention is not to sell this. I think we'll see how it goes, but my intent is to keep it. We'll see where the budget goes on it, but if you factor in all those things, if I was going to buy a lathe to fix it up and resell it, I would feel pretty comfortable putting, and it was free, I would feel pretty comfortable putting $1,500 into it, knowing that I could probably get 3 if I do my job well and correct. I'd get 3 for it at the end. This one, I really do, like I said, I really do feel like I'm going to keep it. It's just got, it's funny how you see things and they just, some people would look at this and just see a big old chunk of metal, and sometimes I think these things, some of them talk to you a little bit, and between that and I just fell in love with it right when I first saw it, even piled up with junk. And so our budget might be a little bit higher than that because I'm not really worried about resale, but that's something that you should take into consideration when you're shopping. If they don't have things like steady rests, or the compounds are missing, or the gears are stripped out, or you need a lead screw, first thing you should do is research to see if you can even get those parts. There's a company out there that makes factory parts still to this day for Sheldons. Of course, you can still get South Bend parts, and most things you can find, like the old Atlas and Craftsman lathes, the Logans, South Bends. There's tons of parts on eBay and in the different forums. And then there's companies out there for like the Bridgeport mills and things like that they make them. They have the prints and the specs, and they're still making parts. So that's the intention, and so we'll dive in and take a look at this old gal and see, kind of see how she worked, and I'll kind of show you some things. Obviously, we couldn't power this up, so whenever I look at something like that, I can kind of plan on, if it looks like this, I mean, when I looked at it, I was like, well, it's probably going to need a motor, and I was right and wrong. I was very happy to get it plugged in and hear it, turn over and watch everything work, and all the gears work and everything. The back gear works and all of that, but when I see something like that and I can't power it on, I'm pretty much thinking, well, I need a motor. And luckily, this is old enough where I don't have to worry about, like my big jet. If you had to replace a motor for that, you're pretty much, you've got to get a 3-phase motor for it, or you're going to have to rewire the circuit boards and everything else that's in it. This has no circuit boards or nothing. And it's single phase, so single phase 220 motor, they're pretty cheap. Even if you want to like oversize it, I think the Sheldon manual for this on the 1156 recommended 3/4 horse at 1725. I'm going to see what's in it, and if the original motor can't be fixed, then we'll figure out what we'll put into it. But I wouldn't mind putting 1.5 horses in it, because these are rugged machines capable of pretty decent cuts. And don't let the looks of this fool you. This is a heavy thing. They don't make stuff like this anymore. With this, just even the drawers in the cabinet is just heavy and tough and durable, and everything's still straight, and it's just remarkable. So anyway, let's get in and take a look at it, and I'll kind of walk you through it and show you some things, just different ideas and different things to look at when you're shopping.